right, welcome into another edition of the 2023 MLB Draft Show. We're continuing on the long line of Wake Forest pitchers to join the show over the last few years. I'm really excited. I'm joined by my co-host Tyler Jennings, but Wake Forest's own Rhett Lowder, captain of the Big Hair Squad. Rhett, welcome to the show, my man. How we doing?
Good. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely, man. So let's just kick things off. We always start with this question. I want you to introduce yourself to the listeners, to the viewers. Talk to us a little bit about who Rhett Lowder is on the mound, and then also what sort of things you like to do off the field.
Yeah, so I'm Rhett Lowder, junior at Wake Forest. This is my junior year this year. Pitched past 2 years there. On the mound, I know there's not much to say. I just got to try to go out there, have as much confidence as I can, have fun out there. Kind of what I do best is mix three pitches, and off the field, I would say I'm an artist. A lot of people, I guess, it's starting to be known by some people around like Wake and our coaches found. I kind of paint a little bit. I used to draw a lot more, but so.
What do you paint? What's your style?
I used to be big into oil painting, like portraits and stuff in high school. I would do a lot of. I think some of those were circling around through the broadcast of my games, so I would do that. And then drawing mainly was portraits, but I had a few requests for some other things that I'm trying to practice on right now.
Nice. Well, before we jump, Tyler, I'll throw you a question in just a minute. But Rhett, if you could give us you said you're a 3-pitch guy. You like to mix it up. Show us the pitch grips on those 3 pitches and how you like to use them.
Gotcha. Well, I have three pitches, but 2 different types of fastballs. So I'll throw 4 pitches if you break it down like that. I'll throw a sinker, which I use primarily. I go inside the 2. I try to grab as little lace as possible, kill a little bit of efficiency, adds a little bit more sink, thumb underneath. And then 4 seam right here, just pretty standard. Nothing crazy. Same thing. Feel the same way, just grabbing some seam right there, getting some more spin. And my favorite off-speed pitch that I've thrown the same way forever. It's a little bit a unique grip. It's my changeup like that. It's a circle change, but it's like all fingers, kind of all of my fingers like that.
That's deep.
What I do like that. And then the thumbs just kind of underneath. I kind of keep same places where my fastball is. Thumbs underneath. I try to keep that very similar throughout, which I threw it like 50% of the time my freshman year. But so this past year I kind of split it up a little bit better, like more even splitting all 4 of my pitches, 3 or 4. And then the slider here, I'll kind of like wrap around. It's like a variation of a spike. You'll see some people spike like that, but then it's the same thing, but I'm just like overlaying on the top. So it's my pointer finger's not really on the ball at all. And then my thumb is trying to get directly underneath also. Right there, a lot of pressure on the middle finger.
So, I dig it, man. I've never seen that slider grip before. I've never
seen
it's a variation like a rest.
I've played with for a while. I tried the spike, and it kind of like aggravated my finger a little bit, so I didn't really. And spikes are like easier to pick up on. It's easier to tip. I don't know, like a lot of people have success with them all the time, but it's just something I couldn't get comfortable with. Digging deep into there, it was just a lot of pressure. So I was messing around with different spike variations because it had better numbers and everything, and it was a lot better pitch. So I felt it a lot more out there, throwing it off the middle finger, a lot more pressure.
Got it. Ty, what you got, man?
All right. So I did want to kind of start off with this because I kind of wanted to ask about the transformation from last year to this past spring, because obviously, cut your ERA in half. Everything looked better on the board statistically, and you won ACC Pitcher of the Year to kind of like explain everything that kind of went into how special this season was for you.
Yeah. So going into my freshman year, I was actually very under-recruited throughout high school and didn't get looked at by a lot of schools. I came in like a normal freshman, skinny righty that was throwing like 88 to 90. So I wasn't expecting much mound time my freshman year beforehand. But once I kind of went through the fall, learned everything. First time I'm like a real coach. I learned everything I needed to do. I went home for winter break and we had an extended winter break because COVID kind of left us at home for a little bit longer. So I kind of really took advantage of that time, put on a lot of weight, came back, was throwing harder. We had a few injuries that got me on the mound in the rotation. So, and I don't know if I was ready for that or not, to be honest at this point, but looking back on it was the best thing for me. Just going in there, getting punched in the face a few times, learning how to deal with that. Had some great games, so flashed some good games. And then I got beat up a lot, but I think the transformation from there to my sophomore year was I got a lot smarter. Like I've already been through the worst, so I wasn't really scared of anything, which was probably the main thing. But then also just more time pitching. I understood. I switched to that sinker primarily last year, got a lot more weaker contact. And then I had that slider. I didn't throw the slider much freshman year. I was kind of heavy changeup. So having that blend where I could throw any of those pitches in any count really helped. And like it was just confidence. I've been out there more, like the more innings you throw in the college game, just it gets a little bit easier. It's always going to be hard, but it gets a little bit easier as you go.
You mentioned that you got beat up, you got punched in the face a few times. What did you take away from that? Because it sounds like you've almost accepted it. Like, hey, I got punched in the face. Like it is what it is. But is there something that you took away from that specifically mentally in terms of how to approach your sophomore year?
Yeah, well, so in the moment freshman year, it was super tough to know like it as a 18-year-old kid, it's hard to look at these games where you feel like you're losing the game for your team. It's hard to accept that and you're like, well, it's hard to say I'm going to be better off for this in the long run. But now like looking back on it each game, I was like everything you can learn so much from each game. I could sit down after I pitch or a start and I could write 7 or 8 pages on the game probably. So you just take in that much, and when you fail, you definitely learn a lot more. I wouldn't even call it failing. You just when you go through some struggles, you'll definitely tend to learn a lot more than when you're coasting and doing really really good. So I would say it's I wasn't scared of failing more so this year. I already know what it was like to grind at bats against good hitters, stuff like that. I gave up big innings. I know I'm not. I know what I can always bounce back. I know there was a game this year early on against Boston College. I gave up like 4 runs in the first inning. I think they were unearned, but it still is like a 4 spot in the first inning. Like your team's down at like early. It's like my freshman year I did that a couple times, so I kind of knew how to react.
Tyler, I'll throw it to you in just a minute, but I was thinking, what with your art background, what kind of, I mean, does that lend you any perspective? Does it give you a unique look at pitching as an art or baseball as an art that I don't think a lot of other players get when they're just like, I don't mean to be long-winded, but when I think with a lot of guys, it's just 100% competitive fire. Like that's what they live on. And I think you have more like a craftsman type of approach. Is that something unique? Is something that you can take to the mound?
Yeah, definitely. So going to talk about my art a little bit, super, I was, I almost could never finish a piece because I always wanted it to be perfect. I could work on one forever. So that's just like a thing inside of me that whatever I do, I kind of just like I have to be the best at it. It's like one of those things inside of me. It's a good thing, but I kind of take that to the game. There's like three or four different sections of the game. You're on the mound, which I believe is pure competitive fire. Like you have to have on the mound. You can't be out there thinking about all this and that. But then you can also like take into practice when you're doing your drill work, the art of pitching. Like you can look at the art of pitching and the delivery is an art. Actually, the game is an art. Like there's a bunch of different aspects, and working in those in different times is like the beauty of it. You can in practice, you can work on your delivery. You can work on a million different things to prepare you for the game. But once you're out there, you're not thinking about any of that. It's all a blend, and figuring out that blend is why this sport's so hard, but it's also so fun.
I dig that. I don't think I've done 200 of these. I don't think we've ever had an artist. Tyler?
I can't recall.
I can't recall. It's like you say blend. It's not baseball and art isn't a typical blend.
Yeah,
So,
not typical.
Ty, what you got, man?
I did want to ask a question too, just with like having Teddy McGraw and Josh Hartle in that rotation with you as well. Has there been any like advice you've given those two in terms of like trying to better themselves, especially like with Teddy having the struggles he had his freshman year, and then I think Hartle struggled as well this year. Is there any like advice that you've given those two specifically?
Yeah, I've been through it. So Hartle was in a similar situation as I was my freshman year, and he had some tough games. But I told him I think he's going to have a great year this year. He's just mentally tough, and he's going to benefit from the struggles. And he had some great games also, just like I did. So during those tough games, it'd be really hard on him. And yeah, I had to sit him down and like, listen, man, like I've been through it. I know it sucks, but you're a good player, great player, and you'll get through it. And also, me and Teddy's like one of my best friends, and we talk about stuff all the time. And he, through the first half of this year, just getting adapted to, I think his last like 28 innings, he only gave up like 1 run. And like, so the beginning, this first half of the year wasn't like that. And he was struggling with it. And he was like, did you think going through these struggles helped you for next year? And I was like, yeah, it definitely did. And he's smart enough and definitely talented enough to figure it out. And he did figure it
out. You are in the middle of one of the best analytics labs in the country. Mm-hmm. I mean, Wake Forest has every discernible, measurable number that you can have access to as a pitcher. How often do you like to get into the weeds? Do you like to kind of craft your arsenal with the numbers, or are you more of a feel guy?
Actually, both. So I love the numbers. I dive into that all the time in the off season. I'm always in the lab crunching numbers, figuring out ways to get better, because I think there is a big advantage to having all that information we have. But also in season, I don't touch it at all. I throw all my bullpens outside, no TrackMan at all. I don't think there's much to gain from it in season. Like, I don't think I'm going to change the shape of my slider in 6 days in between my starts, 6 or 7 days in between my starts in one pin, but I'm going to throw like 15 pitches. I don't think there's much to gain. I'd rather just get in there and compete and try and hit every single spot I can. But not that to say, like in the off season when I'm inside throwing in our lab, that I'm not trying to do the same thing, but there might just be a slightly different focus. But also at the same time, we have a ton of guys that are not as interested in that, and that's perfectly fine. Like, there's plenty of different ways to advance your skill in this game.
Absolutely. Ty, what you got?
I actually don't have any more questions, Jeff. If you got any more on you, feel free.
I want to hit briefly on the CNT. You had an opportunity to play with some of the best pitchers in the country. What was that experience like for you? What did you take away from it? Did you learn anything specific?
Well, it was a great time. It was so fun to be there, meet all those guys for the first time. And also I had 2 of my teammates at the training camp, and Teddy came with me overseas. It was awesome to be there with those guys and meet guys I'm going to be friends with for the rest of my life. It was a great opportunity. But I actually did learn a lot. I got Scott Brown, the pitching coach, taught me a ton there in just the short 2-3 weeks I was with him. And I learned a lot. It was my first time actually throwing against top-tier competition with wood bat also. So I learned a lot. I know at training camp I had a little bit of success. And I was just talking to the guys, and I noticed a lot about this is their first time getting adjusted to wood bat. Everyone starts off slow in the beginning of the summer with wood, and everyone was just like swinging under fastballs, typically more than they would. And I was talking to like Kyle Teal, some of the guys, and they're like, yeah, it's just woods. It's a little bit more inloaded, a little bit heavier. So like everyone was swinging under. So I was like, okay, I can take that. Threw way more 4 seams, got a lot more whiffs from the 4 seams. So just kind of figuring out the difference between wood, and some people have more success with metal, and kind of understand how that was pretty cool. And all those guys that I travel with overseas are going to be some of my best friends forever.
I dig it. So my last question is just kind of surrounding you and Camden, because you guys are forever going to be tied at the hair tie. I would be remiss not to ask who's got the better head of hair.
I don't know. I want to take that crown with me. Actually, whatever you guys think, that one's fine with me.
That's not my award to give.
I'm not trying to please anyone with it.
I think you both have a case.
Yeah.
All right, man. So we'll hit you with the rapid fire questions here to finish this thing off. And I want to do a Wake Forest pitching edition, because you've been surrounded by so many good pitchers over the last few years. So Ryan Cusick, for those listening, Ryan, Camden Minacci, Teddy, you. We'll throw Josh Hartle in there as well. Who's the best cook?
Cusick. He has his own food page.
He has his own food page?
Wait, what?
I did not know about that one.
He used to be pretty active on it. I don't know if he is anymore. In his senior year, I know he was, or his junior year, I should say, he definitely dabbles in the kitchen.
We interviewed Ryan for 20 minutes, and he didn't bring up food once.
I don't know.
Humble dude.
Yeah.
I guess.
I'm putting him out there.
All right. Well, I know Ryan can't win this. 5 or 6 of you, who's got the best style?
Me, definitely me.
There you go. All right. Who's got the
Teddy
worst? Who's got
Teddy
the worst
McGraw
feeling
has the
music?
worst. Oh, worst music. That's probably that might go to Josh Hartle. I don't like when he connects to aux in the pitching lab.
You know what? We interviewed Josh in high school, and we interviewed a lot of his friends. And I want to say Josh was also the worst dresser in high school, which
That
is
wouldn't
kind of a
surprise me.
bummer because he's a killer pitcher.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. All right. Well, the last question we always end on this, Rhett. What is the weirdest fact that you know about anything that not a lot of people know?
The weirdest fact that not a lot of people know. I don't know. That's a tough one.
We've gotten some good ones. I mean, last
Yeah,
year we
give us
learned that a Pringle isn't a potato chip because there's not enough potato product in it.
I don't know if I have any of these facts on me at all.
You got any art facts? Anything interesting about art that nobody knows?
Okay. Yeah, I do actually now that I think about it. An oil painting takes for it to fully dry can take over a year.
See, that's pretty good. That's nothing I would have.
Yeah.
No way I would have.
You
known
like
that.
if you're working with oil, it'll like I'll paint. I'll come back a week later and I'll touch it and it still like comes right off.
Soaking wet.
Yeah.
I'm not patient enough to be an artist.
Can't confirm.
During the pandemic, I painted some shoes and I ruined them just by wearing them like 2 hours later. So not my bag of tricks. Rhett Lowder, Wake Forest, man. Thank you so much for joining us. Excited to see what Wake brings to the field in 2023 because y'all are absolutely loaded on the mound. We didn't even mention Sean Sullivan in this. He's going to be a big part of it as well. So again, Wake Forest loaded. Rhett Lowder, you will probably be at the front of that line. Good luck in 2023, and let's see what you can do.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.